Welcome to Ask Faleskini podcast. In this episode, I will address failure. I will focus on failure in business, but should be also applicable to everyday life. I would like to stress that I have extensive experience in failing. I failed in business and I failed in life many times over and over again. So my expertise in this field is undeniable. The recession is slowly starting to ring a bell. More and more businesses will have to face their mistakes and bad decisions from the past. Yes, failure will become more and more common. That is exactly why I have prepared this podcast, this episode, that will address the question of why everyone should learn to fail fast. Let's dive straight into the theory. Failure is most commonly defined as lack of success. Some dictionaries define failure as neglect or omission of required action. This is not the failure that we will be focusing on this episode. As we know from our experience, life is full of failures. We fall time and again, and then we pick up ourselves and continue to walk, and we fall again and continue to walk. And these are all failures to walk, but we continue to do this failure until we are good enough so that we can walk, and most of us can walk. Even if failure is everyday occurrence in practically everybody's life, there is almost no theory on failure. There are no expertise, there is no knowledge available on failure. Most of the theory focuses on a success. As our society would deliberately dismiss failure as something negligible that nobody should care about. And because there is a huge lack of scientific research and theories about failures, and because I fail so often, practically daily, I decided to explore the subject myself and let me present what I found out while exploring. The first thing that struck my mind was that most of the extremely successful people embrace failure. They don't have problem talking about their failures. They don't have problem acknowledging their failures, and they don't have any vicious mind or any vicious comment when they see other people fail. On the contrast, most of average or below average people have huge problem with failures. They talk down on failures, not just failures like if something bad happened. If something bad happens to them or if they fail in something, they usually don't even talk about it. And if something bad or some failure happens to someone else, they look down on it. And they said, okay, he's a loser, he's a failure. My logical conclusion was that if you want to be successful, first things first, you have to embrace failure. But in a society that we currently live in, embracing failure is not easy, especially when the popular culture talks about the winner takes it all, go big or go home, and all these things are basically engraved in our culture, that failure is something that you shouldn't do, that you shouldn't try, and you should just know things, and only when you're the best you can showcase things, or you can even try to do things, and all others are worthless. So just a winner is someone, even if you're second in a competition, worthless. You have to be first. The winner takes it all mentality is something that is really disastrous for our society. My experience show that it's practically completely impossible to avoid failures completely in one's life. Sometimes we fail due to our problem. We did not prepare ourselves good enough. Sometimes we fail due to outer circumstances. The only thing that we can influence is how we feel after we fail. Yes, we can only control emotional response to our failures. We cannot avoid making mistakes. We cannot completely avoid failing. But what we can completely avoid is feeling like a failure. Yes, we can control our emotional response to our mistakes and our failures. I personally try to focus on the lesson. What can I learn from the failure? What went wrong? What do I need to change so that I don't fail again? I try to stay out of this negative mentality about the failure. It's not easy. Often I have to remind myself, okay, it was a lesson. I have to learn something. It was not just a failure. And this lesson can come handy or will be important in the future. And now that we have our emotional response to failure under control, let me share some tips how to do with failures in life. When failure is inevitable, fail fast. I will repeat that. When failure is inevitable, fail fast. The key understanding how to go about failure. Do not waste your resources and your time on pumping water from a boat that is already underwater. Some things cannot be changed, mended, improved. Some failures are imminent. If failure is imminent, fail fast. If you are in a boat, focus on saving passenger and load. And of course, don't forget to save yourself. Don't do the mistake our society expects us to do. Don't hold to your mistakes just because you have invested so much time, money, and other resources in making this mistake. Don't be one of them. Acknowledge the mistake, learn from the mistake, and move on. That is important. That is the only way the life works. Thomas Sowell explains, who can afford not to learn from the mistakes? He puts it like this. It's so easy to be wrong and persist in being wrong when the costs of being wrong are paid by other people. And yes, most of us not working for government or not being financed by an oblivious investor have to face our failure fast, because nobody will cover the costs of our failures. We have to learn from the song of Kenny Rogers, and he sings in The Gambler, you need to know when to hold them and you need to know when to fold them. The rule of thumb is really simple. If your pot of money is empty, this is a pretty good indicator that it's time to fold. So you should stop making the same mistake again. When you think of your mistakes, failures, misfortunes, think of an old Japanese proverb. The proverb goes like this. The steel will never become a sword without getting burnt and beaten. Yes, your failures and your mistakes are here to help you improve yourself and to become sharp. Let me conclude this episode with a statement and a couple of questions. The best lessons in life come from our failures, not our victories. So why is society celebrating only our victories? And why should we be ashamed of our failures if they are the best lessons in our life? If you like this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.